Welcome back to the Press Club, and thank you very much for staying tuned. Lisa, your top story, rebranded St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival.
And arts.
You don't forget the arts.
No, we can't forget the arts, and I believe if ever there were any concerns about how serious this administration is about the creative industries, I believe these have been dispelled. At least were in my eyes, because there is no bigger stamp that can be given to the local creative industries than this, by having them use this platform that is St. Lucia Jazz, that is so world-renowned, to showcase all that we have to offer, from performers to creators to our artisans. This will be the moment for them. My concern is whether they will rise to the occasion. And I am hoping that they begin to have the various rehearsals, make sure that they start working on their pieces, do alterations if they have to, so that we now can have the arts featured so prominently as the sort of blueprint is right now. So on paper, everything looks good. For me, the execution will be the final word. So I'm really, really happy about that. And I think maybe people talk about the cost associated with having to redesign this thing and include the arts. But when you dissect it, then it means then that whatever monies are paid out, the majority of that remains right here. Now, how often can we say that about a mega event happening in St. Lucia? Again, my concern would be how much of that money is going to remain here. Okay, so I would want to know that our artists are going to be paid, perhaps not comparable to some of the super names that we have on the cast, but at least they would not earn something like $200 or $300 or $500 for their performance. EC for their performance. No, I believe it is a time for everyone to begin to appreciate what it takes for someone to invest in their talent and come and have that showcased, and they ought to be paid for their time and energy and talent. So we'll begin to see another dimension shift in our creative industries, where these creators are paid, and we can begin to set a standard, and by that sort of financial investment, we're now able to develop a true creative industries.
Well, I want to agree with you to some extent. You know, I'll never agree with you totally on that.
That's okay.
I will start by saying that it's a good initiative, or it's a good idea to bring in the local artisans, the local artists, to perform next to those mega stars that we have in the world. However, historically, our participation in those events that are put on are token, and that is the long and short of it. Okay, we put people on there just to say that St. Lucia was represented. It does not matter how well we do. It does not matter who it is. But then some people are put there just to say that we have a representative group. That is one of my concerns. The other concern is that...
Can I rebut now?
No.
Oh, okay.
When I'm done. Okay. The other concern, you said that the majority of the revenue will stay in St. Lucia. The larger, that will not happen. As you rightly said, while these mega stars make out with hundreds of thousands of dollars, our people will be offered pittance for their performance. Hundreds and thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands, as in the case of those stars that come from all over the world, but hundreds and thousands of dollars. And sometimes they wouldn't even reach that many thousands. So a lot of that money is being exported. Already we have problems with the foreign exchange. A lot of that, our money, is going out again. The third part about it for me is that the rebranding took place, and the greatest stakeholders, I have a serious issue, I have to tell you, with the tourist board and the whole tourism focus, which excludes locals. You know, it appears to me that tourism is being created in a vacuum. It's created in a bubble, and the implications on locals is not being considered as it should be. For example, when you have the St. Lucia Jazz Festival, Jazz and Arts Now, the impact of that festival on the island, the economy, the society, the environment even, okay, are effects that we have to bear as a people. When the foreign journalists come in and they report on how great our festival was and how, you know, how inviting the ambience, that's all they report on. They don't look at what effect it has on our economy, how much money out of our GDP has to go towards the production, how much money, how much revenue we have realized as a result, and the spillover. That is not their concern, but that is our concern. These are the things that affect our bread and butter as people.
So do you believe then that the Jazz Festival over the years has not returned on the investment? I
don't think it has returned as people have claimed in the amount. Although, you know, the reason for the Jazz Festival originally
it was never meant to be a dollar for dollar return.
No, it was to attract people to the island
exactly
during the traditionally low season for tourism. Now, the Jazz Festival, Jazz and Arts Now, well, let's talk about the Jazz Festival. It has emerged as a program where more locals attend. Okay?
Now, is that such a bad thing?
It is not a bad thing. But remember, the intent of it was to bring in visitors. Now, if locals again are spending their money to go to jazz, they're spending on the food, they're spending on the ambience, shouldn't they have a greater say? Now, I also, you know, Johnny Manuel is the PR manager at the Tourist Board, and I had an email, I expressed some of my concerns and disappointments in as far as the Media Association not being included in the discussion. His response was, yes, well, we had media people that we consulted as well. And John is a proponent of the Media Association. He's a strong supporter. So, I mean, I will not knock John as far as deliberately omitting the media from the discussions. I would imagine...
Really wasn't an omission.
I would imagine that this would have taken place at a higher level, you know. But it goes to show as well that there is not that respect or recognition that the media is a very important element in the society or in the whole planning, you know.
But we had two, at least a media manager, owner slash manager on the selection panel, as well as in the post Dwayne Menz.
Right.
And then there's also Teddy Francis in the mix there as well. And I think Tony Nicholas
and
also.
Agnes Francis.
At some point, Agnes Francis.
You had Dwayne Menz, Teddy Francis, and Agnes.
Tony Nicholas, I believe, was
Agnes
also,
Francis. Yeah. And Tony Nicholas. Okay.
I don't know if Tony was involved in the selection.
Probably not. I didn't hear him as far as...
The consultation, yes, there's a consultation process.
As far as the selection, probably he was not there for the selection. No. I mean, Dwayne Menz, Agnes Francis, Teddy Francis. Who do they represent on that selection panel? Agnes Francis is with Accela Marketing. Dwayne Menz has Rhythm FM
and Blazing. Yes, as a media owner.
Teddy Francis,
as a practitioner.
But who do they represent? Who do they represent?
I get your point that you're saying that someone from the established media association ought to have been consulted on this.
At least, or should have, they should have requested someone, a representative, who was nominated by the association, so that you say, okay, this person represents all media. But when you look at the names that you called out, I mean, it can be argued that it is because of their affiliation with the government that they were given those places to be selectors. And this is a concern that I have, because when you're doing something that is national in nature...
Do you think that's more fact?
On this particular issue, I would not want to inject my opinion. Okay?
But you believe that the wider public would
yeah, there would be that perception that because of their affiliations that they were chosen. Or
could it be because of the experience? Agnes Francis as being sort of the pioneer of the Jazz Festival.
She was the director of the tourist board.
Teddy Francis,
CDF.
As a former CDF.
But you protect yourself by going through the media association and say, hey, can you identify a couple of people, part of the media, that could, provide a valuable contribution to that process?
And I suppose that what they wanted, I don't want to have to speak for the tourist board, and I'm in nowhere, but I believe that the consultation before the whole selection, that was the sort of view of the consultation process.
No, but then with whom are you consulted? They said that people who usually
range of the society.
Usually people who cover the
But the media are not the only ones involved in the whole process.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying that whoever is there as a media representative should be representing the media.
So what do you think the media association would have brought to the table that these individuals didn't?
A level of objectivity, a level of fairness, and even playing field when people would have been considered for their skills specifically, and there would be no perception that, okay, because of the affiliation to certain elements in government or the party or whatever, that these people were chosen. When you take the representative group for a certain demographic, and our demographic would be media workers, and you say, okay, give us somebody or give us some people.
But I don't think they were really there in their capacity as media workers.
I understand that, but then they represent a media component to that. Because
but we don't even know that they were there in that capacity.
Apart from that, why would they be there?
For the skill sets that they bring to the table.
Okay, which is dominated by what?
Not primarily because they were members of the media.
Which is dominated by their media experience. And
I just said it. Agnes Francis, as a former director of tourism, as the sort of pioneer along with Alan Chastney as being the one who really started up St. Lucia Jazz. Sure, she now has Accela Marketing, which is involved
it started under Alan Chastney.
So, exactly.
It started under Alan Chastney.
Look at what Accela Marketing does now. So it produces events, it's involved in research and that sort of thing.
I am saying that this process should have been more objective.
Do you believe that a bad job overall, just looking at the individuals who were on the selection panel or the sort of review board, whatever, that these individuals did a bad job?
I'm not saying that they did a bad job. That is not my point. I am speaking to going to the people who serve as the channel, the conduits, where information is passed from the tourist board to the public. The public does not.
But how has the information not filtered down because no one from the media association was consulted?
We're just talking. This is just one aspect. We're just talking about the lineup. That is easy. The lineup is just one part of the festival. As I prefaced my comments before, I said that this festival has greater impact on our people.
So let's go there
as far as the economy.
Let's go there before our time runs out in this segment.
Right.
You're talking about so the pay, the aspect about the pay. Let's go back there to your point. We also fail to recognize that the fees involved for St. Lucia Jazz doesn't always go to not only to the artists, because or foreign acts, I should say. Because we have local production teams that benefit from that. You have the taxi drivers who benefit. You have people with the trucks who benefit. The people who are making the stage, the various all over the island who benefit. So it's not and remember that jazz is from the north to the south to the east and the west. It's not just at Pigeon Island for the 2 days. It's more than that. It's like 12, 13 days of happenings around St. Lucia Jazz.
Sorry to say, right, but this argument, and I've heard it before, it smacks at, the whole colonialism, that Massa gets the big, he owns the plantation, and I'm just making an analogy here.
I don't like that analogy.
He owns the plantation, So he gets all the money. It doesn't matter whether he has workers on that plantation who benefit a little from it by working. But at the end of the day, they do all the hard work. Their sweat, their tears, their blood goes into it. And
I have never heard anyone complain about being paid the pay that they've received.
No, because you see,
Jazz.
Because that is where we are as a society.
So you mean there are disgruntled people who just refuse after all these years, who just won't talk about it?
That is where we are as a society, because it's reflected in the tourism industry as well. You know, no matter what the guest tells you, you smile. And
I don't think
come on, and you know that. You know that.
I understand what you're saying, but I do not believe it comes to bear in this particular situation. I don't think it applies here at all. And
let me tell you, when you tell me that the taxi drivers benefit, you know, the artisans benefit, those vendors benefit, of course they benefit. But what is the degree to which they benefit? What are the costs that we bear that are not direct, that we fail to look at? So, you know, and because they're not direct and they don't impact us immediately and directly,
you speak about
then
we say impacts. You speak about the economic impact.
Let's talk about the economy.
Yes, talk to me about that.
We spend a heck of a lot of money putting this festival on.
Okay, so it always ranges between $5 to $7 million.
Okay, how much money is returned as a result of that festival? Bearing in mind too that you said that more locals are going to the festival.
Of late, maybe in the last 10, 15 years,
more locals are going.
It
was intended for foreigners to come in. And more foreigners are staying away, and more locals are going in.
Now, so I have a problem with that argument.
No, we're spending money to attract foreigners, but then we're not attracting foreigners.
Okay.
So the foreign exchange is not coming in.
So are you saying then that because it was conceptualized to have visitors come to our shores during a typically slow period, that St. Lucians ought to stay away? That is what happened initially.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That is the problem I have with that thinking.
That's not what I'm saying.
Because at the beginning of St. Lucia Jazz, everyone saw it as this thing for the outsiders, that it was not good enough, that we were not good enough to be there, that we don't understand what's happening in the hotels. And I believe when they took jazz out of the hotel setting and they allowed it to be in an area that St. Lucians felt more comfortable accessing, then we begin to see it sort of opening up. People are now discussing jazz music or just music in general, performances in general, and that's a good thing. Students are now more enthusiastic about wanting to learn music. Is that a bad thing?
Let me re-articulate my point. The purpose of the
before
festival,
you go there,
because
I listen to you.
Go ahead.
Before you go there, Clinton. Before
I have to take out my velvet gloves.
Yeah, well, don't worry, I'm ready. I'm ready with the iron fist.
Let's go.
When you talk about the economic impact and having people to be draw the visitors, you think the visitors will only come here during jazz? So it was a great mouthpiece so that people can get to know about St. Lucia. So maybe they hear the ad wherever they are in whatever market it is. And they figure, oh, St. Lucia. Maybe they see a program on television, oh, St. Lucia. And so what? They will book their vacation perhaps during the winter season. They may not necessarily come during the St. Lucia Jazz Festival. I mean, it is narrow thinking to believe that the festival, it is supposed to just bring these hordes of visitors only for that period.
So Lisa, no, that's not what I'm saying. So if you are trying to attract visitors for other seasons, you know, for other times in the year, why spend $5 and $7 million on jazz?
Because you want to put on a good show, and you want that
for whom?
For everybody.
You want to put on a good show, yes.
For everybody.
But what is the cost of it? How does it impact our local economy? Things are hard, and if we cannot realize, you know, a break-even level with these monies that are being put out there.
But you know,
and if,
this
hold on. Let me just finish my point.
Okay,
let me just finish my point.
Go ahead.
If we're not even breaking even, right? And if we're seeing a reduction in the number of foreigners who are coming for the festival. What is the point of expending as much money in this festival?
Things, because it does not mean you have to lower the standard of the event.
I am not saying
just
lower
because
the
there has
standard.
been a shift. And in anything,
A lot of it goes into marketing as well.
But that's okay, because that's the whole point. That money there also forms part of the marketing budget for the St. Lucia Tourist Board.
But
it is a marketing event. It's a marketing tool.
You're spending marketing monies for something that is not bearing fruit. That doesn't make sense.
But you remain relevant in the marketplace. Can you really put a price on that?
So
you remain relevant in the marketplace.
So there needs to be a rethink of this festival.
But they have.
To say, okay, jazz and arts.
But what's wrong with that? I don't understand. What's wrong with that?
That is major
and because and because there is that shift, okay, that shift also includes the fact that our French market is becoming buoyant at that time. And when we look at the French market, we're not just talking about, okay, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and French Guiana, but remember, this is the gateway to Europe as well. So why won't we have people from France and other European countries coming through?
I would love to see an independent study, one that comes not from the Tourist Board, because the Tourist Board, of course, would at the end of the day,
marketing?
At the end of the day, well, the fact that Axela Marketing is part of the process, then it would not be an objective one.
I love teasing you.
I would love to see an independent report or an independent study to tell me the economic impact of the Jazz Festival, not looking at the period of the festival, but beyond, okay? Do the surveys and say, okay, how did you get here? Why did you come here? And see if there's any correlation between visitors arriving and the festival. I dare to say that Rihanna being Bajan does more for the Barbados tourism industry than any marketing that the Barbados government can do.
I will not dispute that.
Just the same way. Just the
they
same
know
way.
That is why that they've invested in her heavily. They know that.
Just the same way Oprah,
yes,
can say that St. Lucia is a magnificent place, and this is one of the must see.
I am so happy. I'm so happy that you've made that point.
These are the things that you capitalize on.
So how
not spending, not throwing money and beating a dead horse.
But it's not about throwing money and beating a dead horse when you have looked at it and that you've decided to revamp it. Because in that same vein, Rihanna didn't happen overnight as much as people want to believe. She may have started very young, true, but it's not an overnight thing necessarily.
Well, she happened during the day.
Okay, but here's the thing, Clinton. So we have Rihanna over in Barbados. That's great. Why can't we, from the mere fact that we've developed the arts component to St. Lucia Jazz, find someone like Rihanna in there?
Why can't we find...
I dare to say that our very Stacey Charles is a better vocalist than Rihanna.
Okay.
And I make no bones about it.
Well,
when you listen to Stacey.
She might be, but Rihanna is the one making the platinum albums and making all the money.
But someone has to discover the talent.
Okay.
So the very fact that they can share the stage with these renowned acts, and let's not forget that the artists, people come down with producers, there are people in the audience.
Remember her name, Stacey Charles, and 5 years from now, let's come back here and tell me where she is. Okay? Listen to me.
What pessimism am I dealing with
here? It's not
here?
pessimism. I deal in reality. But what I'm saying is, look at who we have. We have Derek Walcott.
Yes.
We had Sir Arthur Lewis.
Yes.
We have done little, very little, to promote these people and say, okay, these are solutions. Let's use them as a marketing instrument to get tourists.
We missed the boat on
Derek is still alive, and we can still do little things with him. But then we don't even consider we have the greatest number of Nobel laureates per capita in the world.
I agree with that.
In the world. And we are not capitalizing on that as a marketing tool. We are failing, Lisa. Come on.
Okay, I agree with that, and that is going to appeal to a certain segment.
Right.
A small segment. I agree with that more ought to be done with this Honorable Derek Walcott. I am not going to
as opposed to whom? who will appeal to a greater
But we
number?
have to begin to find it. We have to begin to nurture it.
No, but
we must.
Okay, so
and
we
I do
have
not see the arts component in the jazz festival as being some sort of aberration, as people believe, or some token.
No, I don't see that. I don't see it as an aberration.
At the end of the day, these
remember I commended it, right?
These artists and creators and artisans, they are going to form an integral part of the festival, you know.
Remember,
from what I have seen on paper and from the venues that they will be at throughout the entire festival period, from the very beginning to the very end on main stage. So I think we ought to give it a chance. We ought to see what happens. And as I said at the beginning, for me, it will be about the execution. Because right now, it looks good on paper, and I have to give my kudos.
Yeah, it's a good lineup. It's a great, to me, it's the best lineup I've ever seen for jazz.
Afterward, if the execution is poor, I will return and I will say so.
I will bring you back. Well, you'll come back with me, right? I can force you. No, but I am not pessimistic. I am just going on the evidence that has been presented to me based on what has happened in the past. So this is the only thing I can go on.
But this is a rebirth.
I cannot be optimistic to the point of insanity, where I'm thinking that something will happen that has never happened before.
I say give it a chance.
No, I'll give it a chance. And I love the idea of bringing the locals in and exposing them that way. I'm in love with the fact that
I don't like
we have our
artisans. Because it declassing the whole thing. Like, they're not really on par.
Well, they're locals, and it's a term that we use. You might be right as well, because we kind of watering it down and discrediting
what I also
their
love
talent
about the jazz period, and I want to say this very quickly, it allows or gives the opportunity for St. Lucians to hear music on our airwaves. Not just what we have fed from the North American market. You hear the same 10, 20 songs throughout the day on all radio stations, so sickening that it actually broadens that musical scope for St. Lucians, that you can hear different forms of music within the same genre. See? And for me, that is exciting, because I love world music. I love it. I can't really, and I've said so before on this forum, I can't listen to local radio.
You're so worldly, my girl.
Well,
I'm so worldly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, let's jump to the next topic. And
go.
you know, something that is, I mean, Kim John and Francis Philip, the two young men, who were convicted of causing that cathedral massacre in 2000, you know, something that has stuck in our psyches from the time it has happened and has affected the way we relate to people, especially the Rastafarian community, how suspicious we are. They actually changed their pleas. Well, they had been saying they were not guilty, if I'm not mistaken.
By reason of insanity?
Right. They said they were they pled insanity, but then this thing went to the Privy Council. It went to the appeals court. It went to the Privy Council. It came back. The judgment was vacated. The original judgment of guilty and sentenced to death, and now they have pled guilty to manslaughter. And very interesting.
And they're voting a retrial.
Right, and that is very concerning to me and somewhat disheartening, because yes, they might be guilty. However, I was reading the account in the Star, and there was an interview with the attorney representing one of the accused men, and he was saying that he told his client, well, you know, whether you plead guilty to murder or manslaughter is the same life. So, you know, more or less saying, okay, well, my client is guilty, you know, that the confession was not coerced. That's what they're determining. And also, at the end of the day, a quote there, we came to a compromise. And that lawyer is Alcide, Anthony Alcide, representing Francis Philip. He said, so at least they avoid another trial. It's life imprisonment for murder and life imprisonment for manslaughter. So to me, the focus is misdirected.
What should be the focus?
that justice should prevail. You know, that here I see expedience. We don't want to go to another trial.
I think that having a retrial encompasses so much. And it's not just about the accused. It's also about the victims and the families of the victims. And after 13 years, you just really want it to be over.
I agree.
I don't know if these individuals have it within them to go sit in a courtroom for another year and 2 years again, having to go through that process, having to relive that horrendous, incident.
I
don't
totally
know
agree.
if they really wanted to do that.
I wouldn't.
And
I
at
wouldn't.
the end of the day, the outcome would have been the same.
No, but
you have admitted to it.
No, but we're
so you think that they should have gone to death? Is that your contention?
No. I have no judgment on it because I don't have the facts of the case before me to say, okay, well, from what they did, they should be killed. What I'm saying is, the person who is representing them, who should
but
be.
But you indicated earlier you're a realist. Isn't that isn't that a realist view?
That what? That they were guilty and they should die?
Yes, but the men have never. The men have never.
I don't believe in the death penalty.
And that sort of thing.
I don't believe in the death penalty.
Admitted that they did do the crime. And as I said, I believe it's just a matter of just let it be over.
Lisa, but my point is, yes, that should come from the DPP to say, okay, let's reach a compromise with the lawyers to say, okay, not murder one, not murder, manslaughter.
But we don't know whether the deal must go both ways.
No, but what I'm saying is, if
they
the
alone
attorney
can decide this is what's going to happen.
If the attorney
DPP must
no,
agree.
what I'm saying is, the attorney, the person representing him, is saying that.
But he's explaining why it is. He's explaining why they have decided to go the route.
So at least they avoid another trial. It's life imprisonment for murder and life imprisonment for manslaughter.
Yes, so they've avoided another trial.
No,
who's
but
paying for it?
What I'm saying
the
is...
state, you were so
listen to me.
about the state. You know wrinkle cost.
No, listen to me. No, but what I'm saying is this is not the state's call. If I am a lawyer and I'm supposed to represent somebody, right? And going to trial might mean that they will be freed. God forbid in this situation. Wouldn't it be my responsibility or my duty to say, okay, let's go to trial and not compromise?
But the facts remain the same. There has been no new piece of evidence presented in this case.
Well, it's a new,
which would have swayed.
It's a new trial.
No, but no new pieces of evidence has come forth.
No, but if you go to a new trial,
or another,
but if you go to a new trial, then it's open to new evidence.
It's open, but okay, it's open to new.
In addition to what has come out of the trials, the first trial.
Has there been any new evidence?
No, Lisa. What I am saying is, I'm speaking to the representation, and unfortunately, this serves as a bad example because we were scarred by it. Not just the statements. I'm just speaking directly to the statements made by the lawyer.
But do we even know the context? And we both know as practicing journalists, the context within which that statement was made.
Well, it has a number of quotes attributed to him. Another one is they feel they are not guilty, Alcide said, and that's according to the Star. They lack the intention to commit murder. They did not plan to do that. So he's saying that the guys feel they are not guilty. However, he has decided that they should plead guilty to manslaughter.
Okay. So
you see,
the guys feel so they feel that they're not guilty.
Right.
But they also say that they committed the act.
Right.
And remember that they have been deemed to be of unsound mind.
We're looking at a court of law. We have to bear that in mind at all times. It's a court of law, because and we had that argument before we came on air.
And so the attorneys entered a guilty plea of manslaughter, taking into account their mental state, right? And the Court of Appeal upheld the conviction in 2005, in 2003. So they were convicted of a murder in 2003.
Murder, yeah.
So they appealed that, and the Court of Appeal upheld the conviction in 2005.
Right. And went to
the
Privy Council.
Privy Council in 2006 expressed concern that the issue of mental competence had not been properly dealt with.
Right.
And on that basis, they ordered the retrial.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly. So there was some discrepancy in the process of the case between the time that they went on trial and the time that they were convicted. I am speaking specifically to the representation. If I, as a lawyer, have a client who tells me I am not guilty, and you tell me go, plead a lesser charge, so that it will save all of us, because he is a court-appointed attorney.
Yes.
That means that the state pays him, and the state would not be paying him as handsomely as someone who has acquired a private representation.
So are you imputing improper motives?
No, I am not. I'm not imputing. I'm just raising those questions because this, from the quotes the Star has there, is just of concern to me. Now, if God forbid that I find myself in a position where, I am being asked to say, okay, plead to a charge because we do not want to go through that hassle.
But remember, the lawyer now would have all of the evidence before him or her, as well as assessing, analyzing what all of this means. Okay, and you read the quote that perhaps the outcome will simply just be the same.
Perhaps
it would just be the same.
Heather, the quote is, it's life imprisonment for murder and life imprisonment for manslaughter. Now, this quote there totally ignores the fact that the maximum is life imprisonment. It is not automatic life imprisonment. So in other words, I get the impression that a decision has been made already. Okay, whatever you do, you'll be in there for life. Not to say that as a representative you fight for your client. Not to say that, okay, we have a chance where we can reduce that sentence to 15 years or 20 years.
So then, okay, so let's look at the scenario, because we don't really know the scenarios. We just
we just basing it on
right. What we
that
seen.
interview,
right.
that solitary interview.
The lawyer would go to the DPP's office with a proposal. The DPP now would have to examine everything before them, but they need to consent. And so you believe that the DPP's office would not have the best interest of justice at heart?
The DPP, I have no issue with the DPP. I have no issue with the DPP in this case,
right,
because
so the DPP knows that, okay, maybe they feel confident that they will be able to get a conviction, and so
you're saying that the lawyer is not confident that he can argue insanity when the Privy Council, the highest court that we answer to, has said that it's not satisfied that the insanity argument was handled properly by the lower courts.
Or
as a lawyer, as a defense lawyer, this is a big bargaining chip that you have. This is you being elevated to a certain point because the highest court has said that the lower court did not deal with it properly, and therefore it has to go back.
The highest court that has absolutely no understanding of what happens within the locale of these various jurisdictions.
Well, it doesn't matter. That is our fault. There again, we are allowing England to decide our fate when we are independent people, and I have serious issues with that. Going back to my colonial argument, these people have no business interfering or meddling in our business, and that is why I'll support the OECS Supreme Court wholeheartedly. You understand? Because we know our business, we know our culture, we know our systems. We can dispense with justice just as well as the Privy Council. But then in this situation, the Privy Council was the one, the body, the highest legal body that heard the case, and that is the fact of the matter. So that is what we have. That is the context.
Then that an injustice has been done to the accused because the lawyers decided to just cop a plea.
I will not
go to trial.
I will not go that far, but it would suggest to me that expedience was chosen over proper representation. That just from reading this account in the Star on that particular issue, and this is the context from which I speak. I don't have any other background information. What they did was despicable. What they did was an aberration. What they did was barbaric. It was heinous. I mean, you could use all the adjectives you want in the world to describe what they did. However, when you get to court, all this has to be put aside, and then you look at the law.
Yes, and you look at the law.
Right. But that's why you know that it's a court of law, not a court of justice.
But and as I say, I do believe that so many factors were taken into account. I don't think that any lawyer who is true to the profession would decide that, okay, let's just get this over with, and especially in such a high profile case. And I think too that's part of it, that at least in my mind, this high profile matter, then to just rehash all of this thing again, the idea of getting a jury pool that will be able to sit through there and not have their own preconceived notions about the case.
Let me not speak about that lawyer. Let's put him aside. Do you think that all lawyers are true to the profession? Don't you think that there are some lawyers who are not true to the profession?
Of course.
Exactly.
As in any other profession.
Exactly.
As in any other profession. As what I said, any lawyer who is true to the profession would sit down and analyze this thing and see what is best. Because sometimes what might be best for the client is not necessarily fighting and fighting and fighting.
Right, it's true.
And again, depending on the circumstances and how you can use the law to exonerate yourself. If you're not able to maneuver, and remember that the law is something that is so defined that if you're not able to find these maneuverings in what is already defined,
it's like Jello, you know, you make your way through there and you look for the lumps.
So you do what you can within the parameters that you have to work with. And so sometimes it's just better to say, you know what, just cop the deal, because and it happens all the time.
Let's take a quick break. You're watching The Press Club. I'm here with Lisa Joseph. Stay with us. We'll come back with many more stories. Don't go away.